So you just lost an argument. Even though you were clear, logical, and even backed up by facts, something happened. The other person turned your arguments against you. So what the hell happened? What's the actual science behind winning an argument? To solve this problem, we have to go way back to the time when people first put their swords down and started fighting more with their words. In the ancient city of Athens. You see, the Athenians thought that words were very important and even more dangerous. And they were right to think so, since one single argument led to their entire downfall. When Sparta declared war on Athens, Pericles, a political leader, decided to hide his people behind the city walls and stop the expansion of the empire. But after Sparta started destroying their fields, an argument began between Pericles' followers and those who wanted to counterattack. After Pericles' side lost the argument, Athens restarted its military campaign, but lost everything in the process. Thousands of years later, nothing has changed. It was never about being right, it was always about making the other person lose. And to make this happen, there are some key strategies that can be categorized into defensive strategies and offensive strategies. First, let's begin with the defense. The first and most important strategy is the straw man technique. Let me tell you a little secret. No argument is completely unbreakable, so everything you say can be used against you. Piers Morgan is one of the best people when it comes to doing this.
If somebody shows me respect, I show them respect back.
So if Adolf Hitler showed you respect, you'd respect him back.
Now, even if you understand how this strategy works, I bet you probably don't know how to actively use it in your arguments. You see, there are a few specific ways to turn someone's argument against them. Number 1, exaggerate it. It should sound like this. Every person must have the right to free speech, so it's okay if someone just randomly screams bomb in a crowd full of people. Number 2, make it a guilt trap. Factories are bad for the environment. Oh, so you think that the people who work in factories to take care of their children are bad? Number 3, make it seem irrelevant. I am actually a vice president. That's great. Senior vice president? No, just vice president. Still good. Now, the only way someone can beat this technique is by clearly reframing their original argument. So how do you stop them from doing that? Well, with the cutting edge technique. In order to apply this strategy, you have to know one important thing. An argument is made up of 2 parts, the build-up, in which your opponent provides context, and the climax, the most impactful part of the argument. So, what does this have to do with stopping someone from reframing their original argument? You see, in order to stop the other person, you have to interrupt them exactly between the build-up and the climax. If you interrupt them too early, it will look uncivilized and that you don't get them the chance to speak.
How dare you!
Look how Trump uses this strategy in one of his debates.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit
No, you're
that
the
the
puppet.
Russians.
Now, here is the problem. You can't just interrupt someone forever. At some point, you may have to let that person finish a sentence. So, what do you do from here? You use another strategy, the precision press. Basically, with this strategy, you can make the other person seem like they have no idea about the subject, even when they do. How? By getting into specific details. Look how Ben Shapiro uses it here.
We've been talking about. When you say institutional racism, it's too broad. You at least have to name me the institution. Which one is the racist one? Which institution is racist? Tell me which, so we can fight it, seriously, so we can fight it together.
So if you can get the other person's mind to block like that, it's checkmate. Almost. There is something even more important that you must know. You will never win an argument with just defense. It's time to move on to offense. As your first defensive move, you have to always be 2 statements ahead. But how? By using a strategy called the opening anchor. Basically, you first have to use a statement so acceptable that no one will have a reason to attack it. After that, you have to use this statement as an anchor for the actual statement that you want to say in the argument. You may be a little confused right now, but look how Sam Harris first created a strong anchor.
Okay, if you wake up tomorrow morning thinking that saying a few Latin words over your pancakes is going to turn them into the body of Elvis Presley, okay, you have lost your mind.
after basically everyone in the room agreed with that statement, he used it to protect his second one from any counter-attacks.
Okay. But if you think more or less the same thing about a cracker in the body of Jesus, you're just a Catholic.
Now, the example he used was pretty good. But what if you don't have an example like this one? How do you make yourself seem right even if you aren't? You use something called the frame lock. This strategy appears in many parts of Schopenhauer's book, The Art of Always Being Right. Basically, this is how it works. What if I were a psychopath and I would say something like, all dogs are dangerous, so they should all be exterminated. And you dog lovers are just standing in the way. Everyone, even the stupidest people out there, would be able to tell that I am crazy. But what if I say something like this instead? Dog fanatics like you are protecting these canine animals that caused devastating harm to elders, women, and even children. Am I still crazy? The answer is probably still yes, but you got the point. The key is to associate your point of view with a positive connotation, but more importantly to associate your opponents with negative ones. Because biologically speaking, for evolutionary reasons, we feel the negative emotions much stronger than the positive ones. It's important to make the other people feel negative about your opponent. But do you know what is even more important? Making your opponent feel those negative emotions. Because those emotions put us in the primal fight or flight mode and basically takes away most of our logical thinking. But is it possible to make the other person feel bad about their argument? Yes, but it's even easier to make them feel bad about themselves. So you must use the next offensive strategy, ad hominem strike. You shift everyone's attention from the argument to your opponent, and you embarrass them as much as possible. Donald Trump is a master when it comes to applying this strategy.
I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there.
You can even use something called social exclusion and say something like,
First of all, Rand Paul shouldn't even be on this stage. He's number 11. He's got 1% in the polls, and how he got up here, there's far too many people.
This feeling of isolation is psychologically creating a sense of worthlessness in your opponent, which in our primal brain is associated with death. This takes away their ability to think clearly even more. If someone becomes very defensive about something, it automatically raises suspicions in the people around them. Everyone will start to believe that your way is the better choice, but this is not enough. Your way must be the only choice. If not, the argument can be opened up again in the future. So why bother then, when you can just finish the job now by using something called domino domination? Basically, this strategy makes your last lines so memorable and so emotional by using a simple thing called momentum. Now let me show you two military speeches, and you tell me which is better. Good job, soldiers! You really took out a lot of people out there. Or, soldiers, in 15 days you have won 6 victories, taken 55 pieces of cannon and several strong positions. You have made 15,000 prisoners and wounded more than 10,000 men. We will conquer all these lands from east to west. But you probably have no idea with the military, so let me show you how you can use it in your relationship. Instead of telling your girlfriend that she isn't involved enough in your relationship, you can say something like, in the past weeks, I've planned many dates, sent dozens of sweet messages, and made countless efforts to make you smile, yet you still remain cold. This will get you an apology for sure. But be careful, using these tactics in your relationship can turn it into a toxic one. Yet, on the other hand, if your partner is already using them, you may actually be the one trapped in a toxic relationship. But you can't know for sure if you don't understand how toxic relationships really work. Fortunately for you, I know the perfect video for that.